Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, hope you had a great weekend and you're getting ready to get on in there this week. Whatever it is that you do during the week, that's tomorrow. Wanted to get my Sunday episode out. Well, hopefully this will be out before midnight California time. It's midnight Ecuadorian time as I'm recording. But I wanted to start off with some weird news. Haven't had some weird Earth news for a while. So here's a good one. According to Huffington Post, researchers in Zurich, Switzerland, wanted to determine if it was okay or hygienic to use the same MRI scanner between dogs and humans. And they decided that it would be fair as a comparison to use furry humans. In this instance, bearded men. So they took bacteria or pathogenic microorganisms in specimens from 18 bearded men and 30 furry dogs. Well, what do you think they found? The dogs are dirtier, right? They're dogs. They roll in, well, never mind. We don't want to know that. But they roll in anything. Ugh. Well, guess what? You're going to be surprised at this results. They also wanted to compare the extent of bacterial contamination of an MRI scanner that had already been used both by humans and dogs. And then compare that with two other MRI scanners used only by humans. So check it out. All the men with beards had high microbial counts, compared with only 23 out of the 30 dogs. Well, in fact, 7 of those men had so much beard bacteria, they were at risk of getting pretty sick, according to the BBC. So, I don't know. I mean, what's the conclusion there? Out of all the men I've known, I love my dog the most. At least my dog won't get me sick. Pretty gross, right? I mean, ugh. It went viral a couple weeks ago, even though the study had been published in February. But a lot of men with beards think they fell a little bit cut down. Ooh, it's totally gross, man. Totally gross. So, I don't know. They're thinking it's pogoponophobia, which I'm assuming is the same thing as beardophobia. People who are afraid of men with beards. But ew, right? That men with beards have more bacteria in their beard than dogs do. Ugh. Of course, I see dogs shaking their fur off all the time. And I've never seen a man shake his head off. At least not the top head. Okay, this is getting too weird. All right, we're going to go to the next story. Why is it always Florida? I mean, in Dunedin, Florida, authorities are asking for people to call in any information they know about the naked man. Why is it always a naked man? Why is it always Florida? Is it just that it's so hot there, or ugh? So I guess he was only wearing gloves and a ball cap, but on his head. Why don't they call it a head cap? I'm wondering right now. The Pinellas County Sheriff's Office said that it was about 2 weeks ago. This is about 10 days old, this story. This is about 3 weeks ago. This guy stole $250 worth of cash, caused $5,000 worth of damage, and stole a package of hot dogs. Yeah. And this is a concession stand that is shared with Dunedin High School. gives new meaning to the words ball field. Let's just move on before the puns get worse to the next story. Well, it turns out that the White House is more than a house. It's a home to rats. Oh, the jokes that can fly. Yeah, the White House has a big rat problem, but we already knew about the big rat in the White House, did we not? If only we had fixed the way that the Electoral College worked, we would have prevented the biggest rat of all. Oh, the jokes that flew on Twitter when this news came out. My favorite one is from Jake the Deep State Farm at Prairie Outlaw. He says, something sinking ship. Oh, indeed. And then, all the jokes about how, why didn't you catch him with McDonald's? Someone else wrote from the Republic can, that's what they feed Steve Miller. Oh, yeah. Rat problem. Well, we know it's a very old house, and in very old houses, there are rat problems. I had one rat in my house in Detroit, only one. I turned to YouTube as my loyal companion and looked up the words screaming rat. Did that rat took off and never came back, and I never had a rat in my house again. Unfortunately, it did not affect the mice. So, yeah, when you have an old house, especially in Detroit, my God, there's a lot of rats in Detroit. And speaking of rodents in Detroit, in a completely unrelated story, Detroit area Catholics are allowed to eat rodents during Lent. Yeah. What? They're allowed to eat rodents during Lent? Oh, not the rats, though. Unfortunately, the White House can't send the rats to Detroit. Detroit has a lot of rats, but they're talking about muskrats. Yeah, apparently back in the day, I mean the very early days of Detroit, where food was scarce, especially in the wintertime, during Lent especially, when there's snow on the ground, people would trap muskrats and eat them, and the Catholic churches there said that was okay, so I guess people sit down to muskrat dinners for old time's sake? I don't think so. It's a damn good thing I'm not Catholic anymore. And I'm also not in Detroit anymore. Ugh. And according to the Detroit Free Press a couple weeks ago also, an Indiana man we're just going to call Charlie decided to, sue his parents because they destroyed his $29,000 worth of pornography. He was going through a divorce, carried all of his belongings over to his parents' house, who allowed him to live there for 10 months while getting back on his feet and finishing up with the legalities of his divorce. And instead of saying anything to him, the father went ahead and destroyed the guy's porn collection. He was really upset because he misses, his movies, Big Bad Grannies, and his other movie, Frisky Business. So he was in his Grand Haven, Michigan home where he had grown up with his parents after moving from Indiana. Another Michigan. Why is it's always Florida, it's always Michigan, if not the White House. And in a very ballsy move, speaking of balls, his father I think he burned the collection, trashed it, whole thing. So he said to his dad, why? You could have just told me. You don't have to be vindictive. And this is what his father said. Believe it or not, one reason for why I destroyed your porn was for your own mental and emotional health. I would have done the same if I'd found a kilo of crack cocaine. Someday I hope you will understand. Yeah, I don't know. Now that he doesn't have an outlet, what's going to happen there? Probably he'll steal hot dogs in Florida. I think I'm done with the news today. It's all about rats and balls. I think I'm done. Oh, God. Okay. Let's get on to higher and loftier things, shall we? Even though I was having a real field day, a real ball with that one. Oh, God. Okay, so basically, in Ascension news today, the Ascension scale, we are going back up. We are at 93 today on the Ascension scale, where 99 would be the most amount we could feel our symptoms, and 100 would be that we don't have symptoms anymore because we have fully integrated into the fifth dimension. Wow, something white just flew across my room like a big streak and then disappeared. I just love when I talk about the Ascension and I start seeing things in my room. That's so fun. Okay, and in Schumann resonance news today, moving right along, at 7:30 a.m. UTC time, this is what they write. In recent days, we have noticed continuous micro peaks that produced a curious pattern on the primary chart. This graph shows both the frequency and the amplitude. The frequency is represented with a line and the amplitude with the white color. In today's additional chart called Quality, shown below, we see how the frequency is fluctuating significantly, and that is what is producing these quote-unquote lines. In regard to the amplitude today, that activity started at 1 UTC with an initial peak at 24 Hertz. This was followed by very strong variations. The first shortly after 2 UTC reached 47 Hertz, and a second one even stronger at 56 Hertz, little after 3 a.m. UTC. It seems that the variations are continuing. There is a feeling we might see powerful activity in May. Let's see. Then the second evening report at 1700 UTC time today. After the peaks previously reported, the activity went on increasing from 8 to 10 UTC. The average amplitude remained at 50 Hertz, with the peak at 56 Hertz at 10 just before a movement break. From 14 UTC time, the activity restarted, and 2 hours later, at 16:55, there was the most powerful peak of today at 78 Hertz, and it looks like it is continuing. Wow, I can't wait to hear this tomorrow. 78, it feels about right. I don't know about you guys, but it feels about right. So if you want to check it out for yourself, that's on disclosurenews.it, where I usually get my Schumann resonance news. And there's a lot of places on the internet you can go to check out the Schumann resonance, but it's the most confusing chart on the planet. I swear to God, I don't understand it. And I've taken a lot of science classes in college, and this is just, nobody can read it, that has looked at it. It's like, except for these people who know exactly what it means. But I mean, the numbers are all over the place. Nothing is really explained. There's not a baseline level as opposed to the highest peak possible. It goes like from, 7 to 20, not like, say 0 to 200. There's not any consistency. And in one chart, you'll have 4 different colored lines from 4 different reading stations around the world. And it doesn't really, it's like impossible to read these charts completely. And just to see one chart from one location is also extremely hard to understand. So I'm going to continue to read from disclosurenews.it, but I mean, for 2 days I've been looking and looking and looking for a better source so that I could read it myself and understand it, and there has not been a decent explanation as to how to exactly read the chart. So, I don't know. I think that this is pretty good. It's consistent with what I did see on the other charts, even though they're really jumbled up. I mean, for scientists, these people that are doing the charts from all over the world really are not making the chart itself scientific enough. Not for me. I'm a Virgo. I need it cut and dry from beginning to end, easy to understand, based on, reality world where charts used to begin at 0. I don't know. I mean, what do I know? I only took 8 years in university and got a degree in psychology, and that was heavy emphasis on science and math, actually. I don't know. I don't know. Still just scratching my head over it. Now, the Schumann resonance, I did get a little bit more of an explanation as to what it is. It is the amplitude and the frequency that is measured between the surface of the planet and the ionosphere. And it kind of ping-pongs back and forth and makes like a sine wave. And so and I don't even know how they do it, but they somehow figured out a way to measure this. Maybe when it ping-pongs off the ionosphere versus the Earth, I don't know, there's a frequency. But everything has a frequency. Like our hearts have a frequency that they put out, and our hearts can be measured, our heartbeats can be measured like 100 feet from our bodies. And when we meet our twin flame, we know them on a heart level before we know on a head level that that's our twin, because our hearts will resonate in harmony with each other. And everyone's heartbeat has a different way and rhythm and pattern of beating, as well as frequency. And it's like a thumbprint. No two in the whole wide world are alike. But for twin flames, apparently it's almost identical. So I thought that was pretty cool. I've done a lot of research on this stuff. I think it's really cool and interesting. And the more I know, the more you guys will know. Anyway, I will be right back. I am going to take a quick little break and do something for my throat. I'm still having the throat chakra issues. It's like I'm coming towards the end of it. I think my voice would be a lot clearer maybe in a week. That's one of the ascension symptoms that everyone's having. A lot of throat chakra issues. Continuing with the nostalgic feelings, weird things like, remembering a specific day when the light went through the trees and just such a way that touched you, and you kind of cried a little. And even if it's 20 years ago, you're remembering that now. I did mention yesterday, a lot of people from my past started to contact me, from the men that were interested in me 6 months ago and then just stopped calling and then suddenly interested again. 3 calls yesterday I got from men, and then a few days before that I heard from a guy I haven't heard from in 4 years, that kind of thing. And then plus I have friends that are calling. My girlfriend Vera, she and I talk all the time. Well, she called me yesterday. Not all the time. We talk about 6, 7, 8 times a year, and it was cool to hear from her. So that's not what I mean. If you haven't heard from your friend in 2 or 3 months, but they normally would call, that's not what I mean. I mean like people with which you've had a falling out and you haven't talked to them for like 10 years or 20 years, and out of nowhere they feel the need to contact you. Or you're the one doing the contacting and you fall into that trap. That feeling of nostalgia, the feeling of wanting to revisit the past, the feeling of thinking, oh, well, it probably really wasn't all that bad. Maybe I was making a mountain out of a molehill. You call the mole, you find out they're a mountain. I mean, there's a reason why certain people are not in your life anymore. And there's a reason why you've moved on and they've moved on and gone off in different directions. And it's really hard to get back together with somebody that you fell out with to find out that you both grew in the same direction. It's very rare. I didn't talk to my dad in 7 years, and when we got back together, we had grown in the same direction. It was very weird. Separating from each other, we both went off on a spiritual path and came to similar conclusions. But that is super, super rare. And God bless my soul, my dad's soul. He passed when my 16-year-old was almost 1, so it's been about 16 years almost. But so the nostalgia feelings and the longing for childhood feelings and remembering simpler times feelings, even if you're missing like a burger you had from a burger joint that doesn't exist anymore, You know, like every now and again, I think of going to Tommy's Burgers in the Valley. Oh, God. One of the best burgers in the world. And they had the hottest peppers. You can't get those kind of peppers in any restaurant, but Tommy's, boy, they had them all. I think they're still there, but I haven't seen California since 2013. And so it's kind of little hard for me. I mean, I miss Al Cocole, my favorite cafe with the Italian sodas. And they're open till 3 a.m. in Berkeley. And I mean, yeah, I've been like nostalgic, even for going to Ghirardelli Square and getting free samples at Christmas time of their peppermint white chocolate bark. You know, just different things like that. I'm like having weird little memories of like, oh yeah, that was so good. My friend was in San Francisco a few days ago, and he said, oh, I'm in San Francisco. And I go, you better get some chocolate while you're there for me. I had 2 friends in San Francisco in the past week. Yeah, and actually one of them is an ex-boyfriend, and he's gone back in touch with me, but it's good because we're becoming friends. He's married, he's got his kids, he's always telling me about his family. I'm super happy for him. But as a commercial pilot, he gets lonely and bored as fuck. So he every now and again will write me, hey, what's up? How's your kids? What are you doing? And it makes me a little bit nostalgic for the Bay, or when he just landed in Denver a few days ago. That made me nostalgic for the time I went to Denver. And I mean, just that's what I'm talking about, when you just feel like you miss a certain place, or you miss a certain situation or funny thing that happened in your past. You could wish you could go relive that moment again. Oh, the clever things would you say if you could only relive that moment again, instead of going, awkward in the moment sounds that mean nothing. Yeah, if you could only just go back and bust out that joke you took you only 5 years to think about, right? So yeah, we're continuing with that. Other things that come to my attention in the past 24 hours is earaches, really intense earaches, really intense leakage from the ear. You know, you having to use Q-tips more, feeling just like almost like you have an ear infection in both ears. The ear ringing is continuing, the tinnitus, all the ear issues you could possibly have. Feel Good mentioned it, Aluna Ash mentioned it, and I'm like, okay, I thought again it was the virus that I'm just getting over. So I thought maybe it's just that. I didn't really want to mention in case, and maybe I should just mention all these things I'm going through, because maybe they all are just Ascension symptoms now. But the muscle aches, the headaches, the pain, hundreds more people I saw online have been saying the same exact thing from different places now. And so these are the things that, just expect to continue it. Being accepting of it, just acceptance of it is what's going to lessen it. So be grateful though, because, hey, we're evolving, and it hurts to be better. It hurts to look good. It hurts to be better, When I was 8 years old, my dad married his 3rd wife, and so that meant that I needed to get pin curls in my hair. It took 4.5 hours for my aunt to wet my hair down, put pin curls in. A pin curl is where you take a bobby pin and you take your hair and you twist your hair, and then you curl it up where it looks like a snail or one of those old-fashioned lollipops from the 1800s, and then you put a bobby pin in it. And I have so much hair that it literally took her almost 5 hours. And the next day, she had to take out the pin curls, and she had to comb my hair. Then she had to put my hair up, and boy, was I gorgeous. I looked so gorgeous when I was 8 years old. Oh my God. I think I was the best looking person there. Well, I don't know if I was or not, but that's how I felt. My God, I looked beautiful. And she said, it hurts to be beautiful. And she pulled my hair and she pinched my head, and the bobby pins went into my head. And it was like 5 hours of torture. Seriously, they should do this in Guantanamo Bay. They should give the bad guys, pin curls, because that is absolute torture. Only had it done maybe twice in my whole life, but boy, it was hard. It was so hard. But I look great. Afterwards, I look great, and plus I had so much hair covered up the scabs and the blood marks. But it hurts to be beautiful. And, well, we're all going through this physical pain, and it hurts to be beautiful. On the other end of it, we're all going to look like about 29 years old. If we're younger than that, when this ascension takes place for us, we're going to remain pretty young. We're not going to get older. We're not going to advance in age. The 18-year-olds aren't going to suddenly look 29, but just going to look young forever and be vibrant and healthy. So we have stuff to look forward to. And I wanted you to know that we're not going to hop into a random other world. It's the same world where we live now. It's just that we're going to have a perception of it from a higher perspective. We're going to be able to manifest stuff easier, quicker, faster. We're going to draw the people to us that we need. Just like that. So easy. It's not going to be a whole nother world. I mean, I wish that suddenly we would hop into a world in which there is no disease or pestilence and there is no dictatorial, horrid people in charge of countries, and that my kitchen floor would be self-cleaning out of nowhere. That would be the best one. Or if I could just wiggle my nose and my house is clean, and snap my fingers and my furniture moves to my will, that would be excellent. I don't think we get to live in a Samantha world. I don't think we cannot be in a bewitched house just yet. Maybe that's coming, but right now, no. So don't panic and think you're going to leave the world and the rest of your families could go, oh my God, where'd Betsy Sue go? No. It's not going to be like that. Don't panic. You're not going to leave and then your rotten little kids are going to stay behind. No. Or your rotten husband or whoever. It's just that we're going to have a higher perception and a higher idea of how things are. We're going to see colors different. We're going to see more colors. We're going to know things we didn't know before, and all of our magical qualities are coming online. So the world's going to be easier to live in, and we're going to be better. We're going to feel better. That's what this is about. In case you all had any doubts, wanted to reiterate that. I haven't said it in a while, so... Anyway, I'm going to take a quick little break. When I come back, I'm going to tell you a secret. Shh. The ancient secrets of the Fountain of Youth. After this message. Hey you, have you ever thought about having your own podcast like me? Was it even a New Year's resolution? For me, it sure was. But as I've been looking into this for months, I was daunted. There's so many questions I had. When I was trying to get this off the ground, I was wondering, how do I record the episode? How do I get it across all the platforms? How do I get my podcast on Apple Podcasts when I don't even have an iPhone? How do I get it onto Spotify and all the other places? How do I get people to listen? And how do I make money from my podcast? How do I edit it? Oh my God, I had all these questions and I was so confused until I discovered the simple answer is Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and it is ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you could get paid to podcast. All you need to do is record it. You don't have to go out and look for people to advertise on your show. They help you. So basically what I like about podcasting is I don't have to have a video of myself. You don't know if my hair is dirty or if I'm still in my pajamas or even if I'm wearing makeup. Haha. And it's so easy. I could do this from the comfort of my own home in my living room using this amazing app right from my cell phone. So easy, right? So if you've always wanted to start your own podcast and make money, by the way, doing it, please go to anchor.fm/start. That is anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters that are already using Anchor. Again, that's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast, and I can't wait to favorite you. Woohoo! Let's be broadcast podcast buddies. I'll see you there. I first heard of the idea of a fountain of youth when I was a little kid, and I had to read about Stanley and Livingstone looking for the fountain of youth. I think they were in Central America or South America. And I think the town Livingstone in Guatemala is named after Livingstone. Anyway, everyone's wanted that, right? Drink a cup of water and live forever. Woohoo! Yeah, well, not exactly how it works. I mean, you could ask anybody, though, in Ecuador, in Vilcabamba, that there are people that are 100 years old and still so spry because they drink directly from the river, and the river has the exact amount of minerals that you need to stay extremely young and healthy. The air is pure, the water is pure. There are pure rivers here in Ecuador that you could absolutely drink from. In Cuenca, not so much. Not so much. Don't ever drink from any river here. There's only 2 or 3 you can. One is fed directly by a glacier still. That can't last long. As soon as it's fully melted, things will even out. Right now it's safe, though. I haven't done it yet. Someday I will. But the fountain of youth I'm talking about tonight is the 5 Himalayan rites. Someone came along and read the book I'm about to review and tell you guys about, and rewrote a bunch of stuff about something that had already been written about. And he had a better marketing team, I guess, and he popularized it. And he, in his own book, calls it the 5 Tibetan rites, to try to make it a little different, more better and whatever, dude. We all know it's from Tibet if we read the original book, but it's still called the 5 Himalayan rites from the original book. But he coined his own phrase and, tried to build a better mousetrap on someone else's back and on someone else's story. But we're not here to talk about that guy or the book that was written in 1994. We're talking about the book that was written in 1985, and it was written by Peter Kelder. You spell that Kelder. Now, Peter Kelder wrote a book called The Ancient Secret of the Fountain of Youth. And I'm going to tell you guys the story of how this came about. I have now read this book 3 times. And then I'm going to tell you what my results were after only having done these exercises for 2 weeks. It was pretty incredible. So, here we go. Peter Kelder was a young man in his 30s, and he was hanging out one day in the park, minding his own business pretty much, and an elderly gentleman came up to him, and he was walking kind of slow. He was balding and had grayish, whitish hair. An old man, had a cane, walking slow with a cane, okay? And the man was British, and he came and he sat down, and he had a British accent, and I think Peter Kelder was a little fascinated by that, wanted to know the guy's story, and they became friends. And over time, he called the guy in the book. He called him Colonel Bradford, but that wasn't his real name. He used the term Colonel Bradford because he wanted to protect the guy's identity and therefore his privacy, because Peter Kelder himself was he's still alive, is a very, very private man. Now, Colonel Bradford was a British Army officer, and he worked in the diplomatic corps for the Crown. So what this involved was lots of travel all over the world. And he got to see a lot of things and got to know a lot of cultures and basically had a blast, had a lot of adventures. And so Peter and him got together quite a bit. They were always getting together and talking, and Peter was always asking him, forever fascinated by the adventures that he had lived in his life. And yet he always felt like he was holding something back. And he didn't want to, invade his privacy because he's such a private person himself. It took months before this came out. But one day, Colonel Bradford said, "There's one thing out of all of my whole life working for the Crown, one thing that I regret not looking into more at the time, and is just burning inside my mind. I need to know. I have to know. I'm an old man now, but I got to know this stuff. I got to know about this thing." And so Peter was so intrigued. He's like, tell me. And he said, "Okay, look, for thousands of years, there are lamas, Tibetan clerics, that kept a secret. And it's a secret that has been called in India the Fountain of Youth. And as you know, Tibet and India border each other. And there's one little district in India where the people, wherever he went, no matter where he went during his stay in this one little district that was bordering Tibet, all the Indian people were like, there are stories about monks, lamas in Tibet that never age. They have the secret of the Fountain of Youth, and nobody knows what it is. But they never age. They never get old. There's nobody old in their village. And this just I don't know. I know if it was me, it'd just be burning a hole in my mind until I had to do something about it. Like money burns a hole in your pocket till you spend it. That's the feeling I get, the urgency that this guy had was just like, I have to know, and I have to know now because, oh my God, this is so important for humanity. It'll be important for me personally. And I just got to satisfy that thirst. I'm so thirsty for this knowledge. I've got to quench that thirst before I die. That's how I would feel too. Like, oh my God. And when you read this book, you're going to feel it, that urgency and that sense of, I want to do it. I want to know too. I want to know. And so the story is intriguing. The story is intriguing beyond. I mean, they were in Los Angeles when they had this first conversation on a bench. Peter Kelder lives in L.A. And they just were probably out feeding pigeons or something. Something super mundane and wild, fun. I don't know, not wild, but just something. I mean, it's just like outrageous that this guy met Peter Kelder, and because of this guy's story and all the things I'm about to tell you, Peter just had to write a book about it. Never wrote a book in his life. Now he's written 5. If it wasn't for meeting this guy, he never would have written a book. And if it wasn't for this guy meeting Peter Kelder, this guy wouldn't have been spurred on to go to India and figure it out. I mean, this is one of those classic cases, classic incidences in which I believe people had this in mind before they got here, these two men. They knew they were going to meet. They knew what they were going to do for each other. This was a definite setup from before they were born. It's got one of those classic spiritual stories written all over it. But I have a feeling that this is something they both planned before they got here. Okay, so he kept telling him, I think, Colonel, you got to go. You have to go. You have to go. And he kept encouraging him. And the colonel was like, I got to go. You got to go with me. We got to go together. And Peter's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. And then at the last minute, Peter just said, you know what, though? Who am I to interfere with what God wants for us? Who am I to interfere with what people do and with their bodies and whether they age or not like that? I don't know. And he just started having all these weird doubts. And at the last minute, he just said, I'm not going with you, but good luck, man. Basically, I don't know exactly the words he said. He didn't say, but it just was like one of those, yeah, but do I really want to traipse around India looking for something that may not even be real? Do I really want to spend the next month or year or 5 years of my life looking for something? And he just didn't do anything. But he said, you know what? Keep in touch with me if you do find it. I'm very curious. I want to know more. So he set off by himself, Colonel Bradford, an old man walking with a cane, walking slow with a cane, set off to India by himself to look for the ancient secret of the Fountain of Youth. All right, so Peter went on about his merry way, living his life in LA and not really doing much. And, in the way of keeping in touch with the colonel, he had to wait for the colonel to contact him because he had no way of knowing where in India he went. He didn't know all the details. It's not like, everyone had a cell phone in 1985. Let alone an international cell phone or the internet. Nobody had any of that. So Peter just kind of waited for him, and he went on and did his own thing. And a couple years went by, and he almost had forgotten the whole thing, actually. He thought maybe he died, maybe he didn't find it. He didn't know. He just was like, well, maybe I'll hear from him, maybe I won't. And he just kind of had blown it off at that point. And a couple of years had passed, and out of nowhere, he gets a letter. And he's like, oh my God. He got a letter from India. And it says, Peter, my boy, I'm on the verge of finding it. I'm going to find the Fountain of Youth. I know I'm on the verge. I'm so close. I think I have a lead. And that was pretty much all the letter said. And he's like, oh my God. And he got really excited, oh, I can't wait to get the next letter. Oh, I can't wait now. Whoa, he's almost finding it. And then a couple months go by again. A few more months passed, and he's just like, well, maybe he didn't find it. Maybe not. So he just kind of, once again, went about his merry way, living his everyday life, and started to kind of blow it off. It's been months, maybe he didn't really. I don't know. So all of a sudden he gets another letter, second letter. I found it. That's what it said in the letter. I found it. And he said, I can't wait. I'll be home in 2 months and I'm going to tell you all about it. What? Oh my God. Well, now Peter Kelder, he could not stop thinking about it now. He's like, oh my God, this massive, huge breakthrough for humanity. And this guy's going to share the secret with the world. He found the Fountain of Youth. He found the secrets, the ancient, thousands of years old secrets of the lamas in the Himalayan mountains. Oh my God. How wonderful, right? So since the very first day that they had met, or actually since the very last day they had seen each other, 4 years had lapsed. They had not seen each other in 4 years. The colonel took off to go find the secret of youth, and it took 4 years before they saw each other in Los Angeles once again. So he basically got back to Los Angeles, and he rang him up and he said, I'm on my way over. I'm going to come and see you. And he said, okay. Well, he gets a phone call. And it's this, the doorman saying, there is a Colonel Bradford here to see you. And so he answers his door. When he hears a knock at the door, he answers the door. And he didn't recognize the guy standing there. He said he's Colonel Bradford, and he thought, well, this has got to be this guy's grandson because he's young. He's got a full head of hair. His hair's black. He looks really fit, a lot of muscles. He's walking, standing upright. You know, he's just like the complete picture of vigor, vitality, and health. And he's thinking, oh, man, he didn't make it. He died. Then he sent his grandson to talk to me. Man, you know, just kind of disappointed for a second. And the guy says, you know, where I come from, if you don't let your good friends in the door, you know, it's considered bad manners. And he's like, what? He's just like in shock, like, what? And he's like, don't you know me? Seriously, I'm Colonel Bradford. Look into my eyes. You know me. Look at me. Look into my eyes. And he looked into his eyes. He's like, well, you have the same eyes as the guy I remember, but I mean, you don't look anything like the guy that left. I mean, all right, he let him in. And he sat down and he started to tell him this story. He said, so I found the place, and there is nobody there that's old. They might have age in years, but they're not old. They're young. They're like 20-year-olds running around, spry. And there's one guy, when he told him the story, that when he first got there to the village, he was an old man and could barely walk. And Colonel Bradford said, I couldn't believe it. This guy was like, he looked like he was 25, if a day, maybe 20. And for fun, this guy would put 100 pounds of vegetables on his back and climb up a mountain as fast as he could because he felt like it. Here's coming from a guy who could barely lift a small sack when he first got there, let alone walk very well. So he told him, he said, yeah, I started doing these Himalayan 5 rites that they taught me, that they had kept secret for thousands of years from the world because they had no contact with the outside world. It was very treacherous to get to them, and he had to climb over mountains, mountain ranges. He had to have help. He walked with a cane himself. When he arrived, he was very old. In fact, when he got there, they started calling him the Ancient One, and they thought it was weird. He was like an anomaly. They'd never seen an old person like that. To that extent, they were just like, dang, you're old. And they laughed at him. They laughed about it. And they knew they could fix him. They knew they'd fix him. So he told Peter, he said, after about a month of doing these exercises, I realized my health had improved. I was sleeping soundly throughout the whole night. I would wake refreshed and revitalized, filled with energy and vigor. And after 3 months, they had asked me to go into this room where they kept the ancient manuscripts of their people. They had scrolls in there, really old, thousands of years old scrolls, ancient knowledge. And when I was in that room, I noticed in the far corner was an extremely old antique mirror. And I thought, do I even dare look into it? Do I see if I'm like, did I change at all? Do I have any wrinkles on my face? He hadn't seen inside a mirror in 3 months. And so he walked up to the mirror and he couldn't see himself. All he saw was a young man standing there with a full head of thick black hair. And he's standing upright and straight, and he was fit and his muscles were rippling. He says, oh my God, I look 15 years younger. And then after, many, many months there, he was just like a 35-year-old man again. Now, when he left, Peter Kelder didn't know how old he was. He thought maybe he's about 60. But the man had told him that he started to age rapidly at the age of 40. He had fallen into ill health. He had lost his hair, and his hair turned white and or gray, depending on what part of the head you looked at. He started walking with a limp. He had to walk with a cane. His youth was gone at the age of 40. And when he met Peter, it had already been like 20 years or something, maybe 25 years. Maybe, he wasn't sure. He never really told Peter his age, so Peter hadn't really had a clue how old the guy had been. But he knew that when he left, he was an old man, and he came back and he looked like his own grandson. So basically, after 3 months, the villagers stopped calling him the Ancient One because he no longer looked old. He was a picture of health after 3 months of doing these Himalayan 5 rites. And these exercises are really, really short. They're very easy to perform. If they're not easy for you to perform, you can do them just one. You could just maybe pick one and just do that one every day, or do it for 3 times. When you start, you just do each exercise 3 times. Then you stop. You do that for a week. Then the following week, you add 2 more. You only do 5 of each exercise. Then you stop, and then the next week you add 2 more. You got to go slow with it, because it's not a physical exercise only. It's a spiritual exercise. And you have to work your way up 2 additional each time. So every week you add 2 more. So if you're up to 5, the following week it's 7, and then 9, and then 11. And you work your way up to 21 repetitions of each exercise, and that's it. And if you want to split them up, half in the morning, half at night, or if you want to do 21 in the morning and 21 at night, but never more than that, ever. And it takes in the beginning, it only takes 5 minutes, and you work your way up to about 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops. Very easy exercises to do. Very easy. At first it might not be easy, it might be a little awkward, and that's okay, but then you build it up to it. Now I'm going to explain something to you about these exercises. This is what sets these exercises apart from yoga, even though they're very similar to some yoga positions. They do something completely different. These exercises they're spiritual in nature. And I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. But do you guys remember the other day when I mentioned the whirling dervishes and how they spin? And they spin and they spin and they spin and they whirl and whirl and whirl around. And they whirl very rapidly, clockwise. And even the older whirling dervishes look extremely young. See, that's a secret. This is what kids do when they're little. They automatically, instinctually know to just spin and spin and spin and spin until you feel dizzy, and then you fall down and you laugh your head off. The dizziness goes away and you get up and you spin and spin and spin until you get dizzy and laugh your head off again. And fall down laughing with your friends. Preferably in a field of daisies. That's how I did it. And it makes you kind of giddy and happy and it's fun. It's funny. Well, the whirling dervishes, according to the Tibetan lamas, they spin until they spin themselves silly. And then they think they're having a psychic or spiritual experience, which maybe they are. But too much spinning and spinning too rapidly can excite your chakras to an extent in which you're going to get severe anxiety, and you're going to have fear, and you're not going to know where it comes from, and if you're going to burn yourself out and then feel fatigue. You see, because when you spin slowly and you spin, up to 21 times, but slowly, what it does is it balances out each individual chakra. Your chakras are energy centers in your body. And we have 12 of them, but 7 of them are in the body. Then we have minor chakras in the bottoms, the soles of the feet, the center, palms of the hands, in your ears. There's little tiny chakras in addition to the big ones. And they're energy vortexes. They're like maybe the shape of a tornado. And part of it goes out in a cone. Do you guys know what a bugle is? Those little, not the instrument, but the corn snacks from the United States. It's like it's junk food, but it's kind of like, it's a cone. It's a shape of a cone. Well, these chakras have cone shape, and like the end of point is in the center of your body, and then the cone is shaped out in the front and in the back. And they're spinning vortexes of energy. They're not just wheels, they're literally like cones. So basically they spin, and they spin at a specific rate. And if they spin too slowly, what happens is it deteriorates your health in that area of your body. And if they spin too fast, you get anxious and fearful and scared, even if you have nothing to be afraid of and you don't have PTSD or anything. It'll just give you that feeling. And when they all spin out of whack with each other, you're all kinds of screwed up. That leads to deterioration of the body and aging. So everything gets screwed up. I mean, you might start to have stomach issues, or your eyesight might start to go, or any number of health issues. And then the bigger ones, the heart disease and the diabetes and all the other crap, starts after a long time. So these energy centers, or these vortexes, what they do is they govern your 7 ductless glands in your endocrine system. And in turn, your endocrine glands will regulate all of your body functions. And aging is included in those bodily functions. So you're not going to age if all of your chakras are spinning at the correct level for them, and they're all spinning in unison with each other at the exact same rate. Well, guess what, guys? The Himalayan 5 rites, R-I-T-E-S, rites, kind of like rituals and rites. The Himalayan 5 rites, the exercises that have been passed down from generation to generation for thousands of years in this little Lama village in Tibet, will get every single one of your chakras spinning correctly, and every one of your chakras spinning in conjunction with all the others. It will stop the aging process completely in its tracks if you do them every day. Even if you do 3 of each every day, which takes about 5 minutes. And if you build up to 21 times a day, after a month, you're going to sleep soundly through the night. You're going to probably lessen your ascension symptoms. And I've had all kinds of ascension symptoms. I haven't done my exercises in about 8 months now. But I know I'm going to go back to them because I know what they do. Now, when Colonel Bradford was in India, after he left the little village, he wanted to make certain that these would work for everybody and it wasn't just a fluke for himself. So he got up a group of people and found like a rec center in India, and he got these old people together and he taught them the 5 rites. And half the people could do them without a problem, and the other half had a really serious struggle, and they thought they weren't going to work and to give up. And he told them, look, you've got to do as many as you can. If you can only do one for a month or 3 months first, just do the one. Do them to your best of the ability. If you want to take only one, you're still going to get good results. If you do all 5, you're going to get tremendous results. So he had to separate the group of the people who could do it and the people who couldn't, and then encourage the people who couldn't until they could. In both groups, they had the same results as him. They all stopped aging, then reversed aging, and all started to look very young and spry. So he did this a couple times with a couple different classes before he came back to the United States. And then we met up with Peter and told the story to Peter. When he first started to tell the story the very first night, Peter's friends stopped by unannounced and unexpectedly, and Colonel Bradford talked to them for a few minutes and then left. And they're like, this guy seems like he's too young to have ever worked, to be a retiree, from the British Army. There's no way that guy's retired from the Army. He's too young. and Peter's like, how old do you think he seemed to you? They're like, well, he can't be more than like 40. But because he says he's retired, he has to be at least 40. It doesn't make any sense because he doesn't really look more than more than like 35, to be honest. And he's like, yeah, he's at least 40. And I don't think he even really knew how old he was, but he knew he's probably at least 65, at least. So they went ahead and decided before they put out a book on this, before Peter decided to write a book, he wanted to see it for himself. And he got groups together in Los Angeles. And I think the age requirement to get in, you had to be 60 or 65 to get in. I think he wanted to keep it as an older person thing first before he taught younger people this. So they got together and they taught the old people the exercises. And after a few months, the women were saying, both the men and women were getting darker hair, thicker hair. The men that had gone balding got their hair back. The women were saying that they were absolutely amazed that their boobs were not saggy anymore. Their breasts had lifted like they were youthful and perky again. And some of the women that were like 65, 70, 75 years old got their periods again. Can you imagine suddenly being able at the age of 75 to be able to get pregnant again? I mean, for 25 years, that's not even a possibility in your world. All of a sudden you have to use birth control again. Oh, and by the way, you want to have sex again, all the time? They were all feeling certain sexual side effects, they just want to do all the time suddenly. And the men had no issue anymore, threw away their little blue pills. And they all just felt spry, and they all started looking real good and real young again. Peter and the colonel went ahead and did many classes like this for a while, a long while. And taught the 5 Himalayan rites to the people. I'm going to encourage you right now, go to Google or wherever, not Google, I'm sorry, Amazon, Google. Also, you could go to goodreads.com, but you could go to Amazon and you could download this as a Kindle ebook. You could go to your local Barnes & Noble and buy it as a book, just, to read it, hold it in your hands and read it with the sunlight. I love the idea of the sunlight on the page. Even dappled light, if you're sitting under a tree, it's one of my most favorite things in the world, to hold a real book. But you can get his ebook and get it, on your Kindle or your Nook if you want. Eventually, I don't have it up yet, but what I'm going to do is all the books I've reviewed, I'm going to go ahead and put on my soulspeakradio.com in time. And I'm going to have links directly to my Amazon so that you can just get them all in one place. So you can just, go ahead and all the books I review, because I'm kind of racking up a list. And I'll continue to rack up the list. The more I read, the more I'll let you guys know what is good. This book, highly recommend. Even if you're in your 30s, I highly recommend this book, because you're gonna not ever age beyond that. And if you have any health issues at all, you're gonna be amazed. My friend LaRon Jones, Reverend LaRon Jones, he's a preacher down in Los Angeles. He's very metaphysical, just like me. He trained with Della Reese, and he trained with Michael Beckwith. And now he has his own congregation. Hallelujah. Because he teaches spiritual, metaphysical principles, new thought. He doesn't do the fire and brimstone thing, even though his whole family, he grew up in a fire and brimstone preaching family. All Baptists all the time. And the fact that he's gay did not help anything for him growing up. But he's a good friend of mine. I love him dearly. And he taught me he told me about this book. He's like, okay, look, in my mother-in-law's house, he knew my family, he was friends of my husband's family first, and now he's my friend. But he was in her house, and he's just going through her books. He's like, have you ever read this book? She's like, oh, I never got around to it. She looks really old, unfortunately. But I wish she'd read her own books. If she read this book, she would look great and feel great. But anyway, he read this book. He's like, do you mind if I take it? I want to take it and read it for a while. She's like, oh yeah, go ahead. So he read it, and he called me. He's like, Elena, you gotta get this book. Oh my God. And his boyfriend's name is Jesus. And he's like, Jesus. He's like, Jesus and I read this book, and we're doing the exercises. And oh my God. He was so excited, because in 3 weeks' time, all of his stomach issues were gone. All of his sinus issues were gone. His insomnia was gone. And he started to feel better. After 3 months, his skin had all completely cleared up. He didn't have a lot of acne, but he had some acne and some extra oiliness. His skin was absolutely perfect, glowing, perfect. He was already a handsome guy to begin with. But this just clinched it. He's just like, oh my God. He's like, Jesus looks so much better. I look so much better. He's like, we thought we looked good before, but now, oh my God, we're so young. We feel great. We're so happy. So I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right now. You better get off the phone with me, because I got to use my phone to make a purchase and buy the ebook right now. So I did, and I bought it, and I read it in a night, and I started doing the exercises as soon as humanly possible. And I did it for 2 weeks. I mean, I did it longer than that, but after 2 weeks, only 2 weeks. So I was only up to 6 exercises, or 6 repetitions for each exercise. I had been looking pretty haggard. I had just gotten through a divorce. I had just put all my stuff in storage. I had just gotten out of my rented space over in the Bay Area. Over in Richmond, I was like a few blocks from the 3rd Street Mission, which is, if you know anything about that area, damn deadly, very scary area. I mean, I was like, we were living on edge. An 8-year-old was shot because he had a Spider-Man backpack on, shot and killed because he was 8 years old, and he couldn't make up his mind between the red or the blue side. He had a red and blue backpack. His mom didn't think about it, or his grandma didn't think about it, bought it for him for Christmas. I mean, it was like that bad, that kind of scary neighborhood. There was a crack den next door to me, and 2 doors down from that, they were making crystal meth in their backyard out in the open. I called the police. They sent over a helicopter to look at the operation and then leave the area. The police were afraid to go to where we lived. It was that bad. I lived there 6 months with my kids. Laying on a floor, no furniture, $450 a month plus bills. I mean, it was bad. So that's why I moved to Guatemala, to be honest. I had a really great life in Guatemala compared to that. So I was just like, I couldn't find a job. It was like ridiculous. Finally did find a job, and it cost me $150 in gas every month just to go to that job on the weekends, on Saturdays, 4 days a week, or 4 days a month. And it was just ridiculous. I had to go all the way over to Oakland, and it was teaching English in a mosque, a Persian mosque, people that only spoke Farsi, and I didn't understand Farsi. You know, if it had been Arabic, I understand more Arabic, but not a lot. But I just couldn't, it was like ridiculous. I just like, you know, after looking and looking and looking, and my kids couldn't go to school because you have to be rich, meaning you have to have your name on the lease, and you can't, or you have to own your own house, or they won't allow your kids in school. They literally deny education to poor people in the Bay Area. I was just like, dude, let's get out of here. This just blows. So I've been traveling around, and I went with my kids. I took them over to Nevada, and we were in this luxury resort when I heard about this. So I had been just trying to overcome the stress of 6 months living in literally like hell. The clouds are forming like the pictures of demons with horns and everything. Horrible, like skull faces and demon faces. My roommate pointed out to me, he's like, look in these clouds. It's really scary. He's like, this place is scary. We need to get the hell out of here. And he saw it in the sky, and I was like, oh my God. And like a week later, he moved out. He's like, I'm gone. I got to leave. And, you know, I encourage you to do the same. So I did. As soon as I could, I left. And so, I mean, like literally, our other roommates saw it. My kids saw it. I mean, the demons in the clouds. It was a scary place. So I had aged pretty rapidly during those times. I just come through the divorce, you know, a couple years before, and then my husband died. I mean, I was just like looking. I was 38, and I looked almost 45. Like I was starting to not a lot of wrinkles, but I just looked haggard and old, and I was looking pretty just blah. So after 2 weeks of doing these exercises in the fancy resort, then we moved over to Tahoe and rented a little motel because it was directly across the street from Lake Tahoe. We had this gorgeous view of the lake. And I wanted to just be in a beautiful, lovely, peaceful space for a while. And the goal was to live for 1 month on the road with very bare minimum things to see if we could do it before we moved to a third world nation where we're going to have hardly anything. And we didn't know if we could do it, so it was our test. And we passed it with flying colors, and then we moved, and we never looked back, and we've been really happy about traveling. But I did the exercises. I did it for 2 weeks. So I was up to 6 repetitions of each exercise. And all of a sudden, I'd go into restaurants, I'd be walking around Tahoe, and 20-year-olds were coming on to me. 19-year-olds, 22-year-olds, like everywhere I went, these young guys were coming on to me. And then they were like, where's your mom? And they weren't talking to my kids. They were talking to me and my kids. And they started saying, well, I thought you were their older sister. I thought you were my age. I thought you were like 20. Okay. 3 weeks before in Tahoe, boys that age were calling me ma'am. Oh, sorry, ma'am. Can I help you with your groceries? Ma'am, do you need help? I went from ma'am to being the hot, sexy 20-something older sister to my own children. That was the perception of people around me. I called my friend LaRon, and I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. This is a breakthrough. Beyond breakthroughs, like, oh my God. These young guys I mean, there are always like the 24-year-olds that want to be with you because you're a MILF and it's hot and the whole age difference and so taboo and so therefore very sexy. But these are guys that only liked people their own age. And that was the point. Like, what? Why? Why? And even now, I still, and I haven't done the exercises in 6 months, I still have young guys. They don't think I'm their age. They do think I'm in my 30s again because I haven't done it consistently. I know I got to get back into it when I'm ready to start dating. So I'm getting ready. I think maybe this week I'm going to go out swimming at the volcanic waters pool that they have here. And then I'm going to go to, and I'm going to start doing the exercises again. And in a month again, I'm going to look like I'm 30. But even now I have problems like when you're an older person in Ecuador, they put you in the line ahead of everybody else when you're the oldest person in the line. And if you're waiting for a taxi and some young people are waiting for the taxi, the young people kind of legally have to let you go into the taxi first, especially if it's like raining and you appear old. Well, since I don't appear old, even if my body feels a little achy and pains, like nobody believes it, so they just hop in a taxi in front of me. It's so irritating. And if I say I'm 50, they just go, liar, mentira. So they say mentirosa. They say you're a liar. It's like, oh my God. And I've had that happen in Peru. I have it happen here, even though I wasn't being consistent with the exercises. Now, my friend Laurent, I called him and he's like, yeah, Jesus and I are consistent with the exercises. And there's a secret, 6th Himalayan rite. It's where you're abstinent, you're celibate, you don't have sex anymore at all. And so he and his boyfriend decided to do that because Gore Vidal did that with his lover for like 40 years, and they managed to eliminate all jealousy from their relationship because neither one of them were having sex with anyone. And they were madly, happily, passionately in love, and still, I think if he's still alive, I think they're still together and they're just completely happy. and therefore you can use the sexual energy for all your other endeavors. And so my friend decided to do that. He's like, every now and again we'll break down like once a year or something, and be together. But usually we're not. They have separate bedrooms and they live their lives completely close. They're very, very close, but they're not physical with each other because they are channeling the energy, right? And so I thought that was a very interesting point. So I'm the same way. I'm celibate for the most part. I mean, if I date someone, then I'm not. And even if I am, last guy I dated, it was like once a month. It was like not hardly anything because I want to preserve that energy. So, you could go as deep as you want with this, no pun intended, with these exercises. And I highly recommend this book, The Ancient Secret of the Fountain of Youth by Peter Kelder. You're going to be amazed. Please, 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 please tell me your results with it because, it's not only about your youth and vitality and your vigor and getting everything back. It's about your health being in alignment so you are healthy. And it's so the aches and pains and the itty bitty things that have been irking you and bugging you for years maybe just go away. How much of your mental energy would you free up? And your emotional energy would you free up if you weren't upset about all the things that you're having in your body that's been bugging you for 20, 30, 40 years? I know 30-year-olds are still like they can't get out of bed in the morning. They have too much arthritis or they are too sluggish, mentally foggy. And I'm not talking about ascension symptoms that's happening for everybody. Just the everyday stuff that started happening, that was happening before the ascension started a couple of years ago. So at least for me, I know that nobody believes it's my age, that's really my age. Now, if I'm having a really bad day and I'm really carrying a lot of water weight because of the ascension symptoms, and maybe if the arthritis is bad, I'm kind of hobbling along a little bit, and if I dress Sometimes I dress a little bit frumpy on purpose because I don't want male attention. There's some days I just don't feel like I can handle it. I just don't want to deal with that machismo, trying to get with me type of thing, And there's other days I'll dress real sexy, or, not slutty, but I mean, like, wear something kind of tight fitting and a little bit, where I look younger, I look kind of sexy. And I feel like, on those days, guys are so intimidated by me, they just still don't talk to me. So it's probably good either way, but I don't do like low cut or high cut skirts or something ever. I never show skin, but don't want to blind people with the whiteness, but, but I mean, it's like, usually if I dress kind of frumpy, guys guess my age to be about 45 now, sometimes 30, 35, but, I want to get back to younger. I want people to be like, what are you, 30? And not believe it. See my driver's license and think I'm a liar. Like, you lied on your driver's license. Why would you lie and say you're 20 years older than you? I mean, I want to get to that point again. And I want you guys to get to that point again. I want you guys to tell me the stories of it because it's so fun. It's so exciting that you can do this. There is an out. You don't have to age. I mean, just by going through the ascension and getting to that level of vibratory frequency, you're going to unage yourself. You're going to be more youthful and vibrant. But if you do these exercises, that much faster, the results will just be there. So please send me voice messages. Get this book today, and then in about a month, I want to hear from you. Send me voice messages at anchor.fm/metaphysical. And I want to hear you guys' success stories with it because this is so exciting. And the other thing is, if you want to send me an email or donations on PayPal, it's the same. It's metaphysicalsoulspeak@gmail.com. And I will put on soulspeakradio.com eventually. I will get to it and put a book link page that you could go to, and it'll have all the links to all the books that I'm reviewing. I haven't gotten to it yet. I've been sick for the past 3 weeks. I've just been sleeping mostly during the day. That's another thing. I mean, with our immune system revving up and everything is getting revamped, and a lot of people are sick this week because of it, in this past 2 weeks because of this. So, there's still going to be some times where you still get sick. There's still going to be times where things still happen. But if you do these exercises, it's going to be a lot less. I get through illnesses faster than I used to. I just went through like 3 in a row, though. So it's just the immune system revamping and revitalizing and rejuvenating itself into a crystalline form. Every part of our bodies are going to be crystalline pretty soon. So it's crazy stuff. But I know beyond a shadow of doubt, not just for me, but for my friends' stories about these Himalayan 5 rites absolutely working. So you can look up the Himalayan 5 rites for free right now on YouTube. A lot of people have put out videos on how to do them. I highly recommend it. You start that way. But get the book and read it, because the story itself is fascinating. I didn't tell you everything, but I gave you a lot of the information. So sorry about the spoiler alerts a little bit, but it's such an exciting story. I mean, it's worth having the book. It's really worth it because you could read it again and again and get inspired all over again. Like I said, I've read it 3 times and I'm always inspired. But there's pictures on how to do the exercises and which way you breathe with each one. And, I didn't give away the actual exercises on this episode because that's for you to discover on your own. Anyway, I love you all very much. I'm wishing you happiness and health and all the good things that this life has to offer. We're pulling in heaven on earth. Life is getting better. It's getting better every day. You got to just keep accepting what comes. You know that if God brings you to it, He's going to pull you through it. Everything is getting better and better and better. Every day in every way, you're getting better and better and better. So that's all I got to say about that, guys. I love you very much. We're signing off now with peace and joy and the high vibes of the holy fifth dimension. Until next time. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you.